Got some cheese and chorizo. Oh goodness me!
I figured we probably could have like put different clothes on to make people think that this is another day, but who are we fooling?
I'm not sure I've got any other clothes.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
It's me, Matt, and Andy. But you can say it's you.
Are you both of us?
I think so, yeah.
Oh.
This. Yeah.
Okay, I'll just sit this one out then.
Okay. Hi!
Hi.
We're back!
Hello. We are indeed back. How are you doing, Matt?
I'm doing good.
How's it been?
It's been good, yeah. I'm excited to be here, back at home in our lovely flat, with the heating on, inside in the warmth, not the minus 27 degrees it felt like with the wind chill from Empire.
I don't actually think the heating is on.
I don't think it's on, but it feels a lot warmer than we did over
Absolutely.
the weekend.
Mm.
Ah.
You had another video you wanted to do.
Yeah, that's why we're here in this next other video. I had another question I wanted to ask, which is sort of related to the previous Hots and Hots, but I figured it would be nice as like its own thing. So this Empire just gone was probably the biggest one we've had, I would warrant a guess.
Yeah.
Lots of brand new players, lots of brand new characters. This is your second character.
This is my second
So
character.
you've now joined a brand new nation.
I have indeed.
With a brand new character.
Brand new.
Kind of at the start of a new chapter for Empire, because it's been, 2 years for everyone, so it feels a lot different.
Indeed.
So I think go on then. Asking you some questions about your new nation would be an interesting perspective to get.
I would love to answer your questions, Matt.
Cool. I should figure out what they are, because I think it would be really interesting for our viewers and listeners to know. If you played Empire, you've played Empire for maybe 5 years out of character as Raw. You had like 4,
excluding the lockdown.
Yeah, you had 3 or 4 years playing one character.
Yeah.
So, for people maybe thinking about choosing a new nation or choosing a new character, how has this event been? How is it different? How has it changed?
So
what's the general crack?
The general crack is as I've already iterated many times, I had a lot of fun with Gaspar. Very, very different character to my last character, who took very seriously. Raw was very much sort of, I mean, aside from the obvious reasons that I switched out with Raw, she was very much a honestly quite a dark kind of character, really.
She was very intense.
Intense, kind of a bit broken, very sad.
Yeah.
And over like the course of, I don't want to say LARP career, but role-playing characters and stuff, I have noticed that getting to play characters that are happy, oddly enough, you're happier. Who would have thought it? So getting to play Gaspar, who, primarily wants to have a laugh with people, or at their expense, was incredible. It was very much exactly what I needed, quite honestly.
Yeah.
Changing nation, I couldn't. I mean, I've got designs on other Imperial Orc characters that are a bit more happy-go-lucky. But I'm glad I've chosen the League for this particular iteration.
So, Another thing for, I guess, like players to think about, if you're thinking about like backup characters, or maybe you're not having too much fun and you're just thinking about having a change. You've gone from a well-established character to being
To an absolute nobody.
an absolute nobody,
Yeah.
as everyone will be when they start again. How did you find that?
Easy.
Was it nice just to go back to 8 points, or 8 or 9 points, depending on if you've got some skill points spare?
No, that was actually one of the things that I didn't enjoy. Just because there was some skills that I really could have done with that I obviously didn't have. You know, I don't want to go into what Gaspar's skills are, but like, he's not good at fighting, let's put it that way. And it would have been nice to have the points that really, although I spent them on Raw, I spent them towards the end of the character, and I mean, I hit Winterlaw very hard with a lot of the points I had saved up, and I then didn't do a single winter ritual. So I could have had those points on Gaspar had I known back then.
Yeah.
But I didn't, and I'm not going to begrudge it, because obviously everybody starts with 8 points. Get over it. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's fine.
Did you still feel like you could play the game you wanted to?
Absolutely. Yeah, it didn't really affect my game at all. But my game was to be an idiot and have fun with my buddy. So, yeah, not at all. Not at all did it really affect what I wanted to get into. What I was interested in doing was mostly social rather than mechanics based anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, it didn't have a single drop of effect on what I wanted to do.
Brilliant. You've gone from a nation where you basically know everybody in and out of character
to knowing nobody.
To knowing, in effect, nobody apart from your group mates.
And a smattering.
And maybe a smattering of people, like in passing. Like, most of us know other players in other nations.
Yeah.
Like, as acquaintances. How was that going into, like, did you feel welcomed?
Oh yeah.
Did you feel like you could rock up to established players and just say hello? Like, how?
Yeah.
What was the feeling like going in? Because I'm kind of taking this almost as you're a brand new player.
Yeah.
Because it is so fun. A lot of people won't recognise you out of the orc mask. So as like a newish player, definitely as a new character, how did you find joining a new nation?
It was very, very welcoming in the league. One of the things that we did was we deliberately didn't take a group attempt, because it was just the pair of us. Like,
yeah.
Wasn't really any point in us having a like established base of operation. But it was so easy to, or like I said in the other thing, I was just wandering around minding my own business and people were inviting me out for drinks and stuff. So yeah, I felt incredibly welcome. The amount of people who just wanted to sort of chat and have a sit down and a drink with us was lovely. There were people that I didn't get to talk to. It's still quite a big nation. I think I want to say the league is only a little bit bigger than the Imperial Orcs.
I think the league is because there's like, I'd say 4 levels of nation. There's like small, which is the orcs. There's medium, which I'd say is like 150 to 200 players, which I think the league is in. Then there's large, which is like Dawn and Navarre, and then there's super large, which is Wintermark.
True.
I think there's a lot of nations that are around the kind of 200 player mark that aren't massively bigger than the orcs.
I mean, I'm not very good at estimating numbers,
no.
But I would say 200 players in the league is a stretch. Very much so. And I would kind of harking back to your original question, I think. Even though we were kind of really the only establishing that we had done was silly little drawings and stuff that I was doing pre-game.
You've done a couple of player events.
We'd done a few player events, and it was nice.
You hadn't really met anyone in the league. You'd met a couple of people, but not.
Yeah, maybe met like a smattering of people. And although I was kind of nervous when we went to the Debutan's ball, and then like when it all sort of dissipated, it was very much a bit like, oh god, what do we do now? But found our feet very, very quickly. And I think when you're starting a new character, I think it's very, very easy to kind of cast off the impression that people had of you or of your character from before. Especially if you go to a different nation where you might not have interacted with them before. And I didn't feel like, well, I kind of feel a bit like there might not be many leaguers now who haven't heard of the Wretches of Regario.
I think you've done pretty good at establishing yourself. Like, you went pretty hell for leather very quickly. Yeah.
Just, all of that was just setting up some little things that I wanted to do. Like, I had totally planned to start a bar fight in the Mount Dallas Arms. But we got there.
I mean, you still can.
Well, absolutely can still. And still might. 100%. But we got there and it got too wholesome and it wasn't the right time. But like that was one of the big things that I had hoped to do. But like the looking glass thing, getting in with the looking glass, they were just so friendly. Everybody was friendly to us, you know. Yeah, it was just nice. I think, you know, playing into your character as hard as possible, you can't really go wrong, you know.
Yeah.
It's a social, really, LARP is a social experience. And if you sit in the corner like Aragorn and don't talk to anyone, that's kind of going to be it for you. Whereas if you throw yourself into things and get involved with stuff that's going on and invent things that you want to do, people will pick up on that, and you know it's what you make of it, really.
Yeah, I guess what I'm asking is, like, was it fairly easy to get involved?
I feel, yeah, it was. Despite the fact that I had nerves, I still felt very much like it was incredibly easy for me and Gwyn to get in and do stuff, really.
Cool.
Not exactly a tangent, but before we move on, I'm just gonna say that opportunities arose that took years on Raw.
Right. So things that would have taken a long time for Raw
come up on my
just
first
managed
event,
to,
really. Come up on the first event, really. Yeah. Sorry, that was very cryptic.
Yeah, that's not going anywhere. So, like, I guess a kind of crew-related question. Did your egregores like make themselves known? Did you interact with them at all? Could you find them in or out of character?
Yes, they definitely made themselves known. They did at the Debutan's Ball, so
that's like the kind of introduction.
Yeah.
The league has, right?
That was another thing that was different to the Imperial Orcs, because usually new orcs are kind of left to their own devices until not exactly in that way, but you know, it doesn't tend to turn up until Landsmeet, which is generally Saturday afternoon.
Yeah.
That they'll then get introduced to the nation. You know, obviously people come up and be like, "Oh, you're a new orc. Hello, you know, what can we get you involved in? Blah blah blah." But you don't really get formally introduced to the nation until kind of more than halfway through the event. Yeah. Although there wasn't like a I am this opportunity, the Debutan's Ball was very much more established characters introducing themselves to like the wider new player mass.
Okay.
And one of those was the Egregore. We only had one egregore this event, which was fine, but Contessa was difficult to find at points. And
well, I guess one of my big queries is like, could you have found them out of character if you needed to? Being someone that they didn't know really.
no.
Okay.
We did struggle to find them at one point. It just so happened that we didn't really need them. It's not necessarily, I wouldn't say it's a problem exactly, especially not for me, because I know that there are other people that I can go to. And I will be honest, I think I interacted more with egregores in other people's nations than my own.
Yeah. I think it's one of those things worth asking, because egregores are like your out character port of call.
Yeah.
And as someone that they potentially don't recognise, maybe that's something that needs to be noted, just so that they do get to know people quickly.
Yeah.
Like I know in the orcs, like most people will make themselves known on Facebook or on Discord. We'll kind of know who's coming to the event before they do.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit unfair to judge it on this event just because they were
certainly.
effectively so short-staffed in that department. Yeah. Like, I think if the other egregores had been around, it would have been much easier.
Cool.
I think, ultimately, if you're thinking about changing your character for whatever reason, you're thinking about changing your character for a reason, right? Which will generally boil down to, for some reason you're not enjoying playing them, whatever reason that might be. I mean, for me it was, I want to start my transition and I didn't feel that Raw fit that, and I didn't really want Raw to be a part of that. So I thought, okay, well, I'll start again and be someone new. And I know that there was somebody else who turned up to their event playing their old character and immediately got all into their kit and then turned around and went, nope, I can't do this. And then went and restarted and became their new character. And for exactly the same reason that I changed. And, that's a really important thing. I think something that is often kind of overlooked in LARP is you actually have no obligation outside of your own fun to keep doing the thing if you're not enjoying it.
I think it's that thing that so often comes up in D&D, like not doing D&D is better than going to bad D&D, right? So, yeah, I don't know. I know a lot of people that, from my perspective, don't look like they're enjoying their character, and I'm like, just try something else.
It can be really hard to let go of your established characters.
Yeah, definitely.
Really hard. Like, I won't lie, it did concern me at first. It wasn't until I had a really major, sad about leaving the nation. Not even a week before the event, because you were talking about Winds of Fortune with a load of the other orcs, and I just suddenly went, what have I done? I don't want to leave these. I don't want to leave my friends behind. I don't really want to leave the orcs, and I kind of still don't. Obviously, Gaspar's not going to work in the orcs because he's a gobshite and respects no one or anything. But I didn't feel like I couldn't go and play with the orcs as well for my new character. So things like that. Playing in a different nation isn't really a benchmark. Okay, you see, the things that apply to one nation aren't necessarily going to apply to all the nations. I mean, I can't really get involved with the Baron stuff now, which is a shame, but why would Gaspar Like, he's not, he doesn't give a shit if the orcs have territory. But I feel like that is a feature rather than a bug.
Yeah.
And although I want to play Empire with my mates, I have been playing that same aspect for like 5 years, and change isn't necessarily a bad thing, as much as it feels like it might be at times. It's not a bad thing. And if that change is then going to lead you to have more fun, then you owe it to yourself, really.
I think that's
that got deep.
That's kind of why I wanted to ask, like, to do this video. I think it's really important to just sort of, especially now after such a long break, when, you know, before COVID, I wouldn't go a day without thinking about Empire, and then I had 2 years of not really even thinking about LARP in general, and now we're kind of back, and like, yeah, not much has changed, but also like a hell of a lot has changed. And I think now's a great time. If it's something you're considering, if it's something in the back of your mind where you're thinking like, you know, my maybe new friends have rocked up in a new nation and they've got their own group. Maybe your nation feels not the way it used to. Like, don't worry about it. And just, if it's something you're thinking about, as you said, it's probably for a reason. And actually, I think if you'd done one more event as Raw just to say goodbye, you probably would have come away just thinking, why wasn't I Gaspar immediately?
Yeah, kinda. Yeah, I have a feeling. I think I made the right choice. Although there were definitely things that happened that I'm really sad I wasn't playing Raw for. Like, Yarn dying? What the fuck? I can't believe that. Like, that would have been a very poignant moment to end Raw on. But I couldn't possibly have known that at the start of the event. And I'm glad that I was playing Gaspar for those times that I wasn't even thinking about Raw, really. What would I have been doing in the run up to that? Making like people's lives awkward and being sad. I kind of lost the interest in doing that. I'm very glad that I played Gaspar instead.
Hooray!
The other thing, I guess, to note is that if you, for whatever reason, decide that you've made a terrible, terrible mistake and you'd like to go back to your old nation, although you can't go back to your old character, you can. I mean, I don't feel like I wouldn't. I feel like if I turned around and said, actually, I've changed my mind, Gaspar was not for me, I could just rock up as another orc at the next event and I'd be welcome back with open arms, out of character.
Definitely.
It's not going to happen, but you can always go back. Like, nothing's really set in stone.
Yeah. So one last question, and we kind of touched on this in the last video. Replayability. From a kind of like, Empire is a huge game and we're paying a lot of money to be there. Are there new things that you could interact with? Like, how different is it now being in a new nation? Is there a lot?
Ooh,
is there enough kind of different stuff to kind of get your teeth in and just play?
Literally nothing is the same. Well, apart from it being Empire, the setting's obviously not changed, but
there's enough game to kind of do a brand new thing.
Yeah. I mean, it's not like D&D. You know, the way that Empire's been built, it's not like you pick the class and then the race and then, you know, they maybe combine a little bit to make something a bit different each time, but this is kind of not really. You know, you play an orc ranger and a human ranger, they're kind of really, honestly, kind of the same. It's not like that at all. There's so many different things to get involved with that are nation culture centric, that if you go to a different nation, it's very difficult to play the same character. Like Rob, the shaman, would never work in the league. Really, I don't know how they could.
No.
And
that's not a bad thing.
Yeah, not at all. And whilst I could play a character kind of similar in personality, all of their skills would be completely different. You know, like my next, I'm now that guy that's like, oh, my next character's an orc. My next character is going to be back in the orcs, and I have a feeling that they might wind up being quite similar to Gaspar, but again, it'll be a completely different focus. You know, I was thinking about playing a Reaver, being a little bit of a sort of cheeky, because I love goblin type attitude characters a lot. But yeah, even if they're similar, the focus will be completely different, and yeah.
Yeah, so I guess what I'm asking is, if you're looking for a change, if you're not, maybe you've come to the end of your character story, or maybe you're not enjoying Empire anymore for one reason or the other, changing nation is enough that actually you could have a whole brand new game with a bunch of new people that you don't know yet, and it's a good lot of fun and different enough that maybe it's worth trying that out before.
Easily.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I would say if you're not enjoying yourself, what are you going to lose? I mean, if you're already not enjoying yourself, what's the worst that can happen? You might continue to not enjoy yourself. Nothing's changed, really. And that's a bit of a negative way of looking at it, but you also might have an absolute blast and go, why didn't I do this sooner? Well, definitely what I did. So, yeah. That would be my take.
Cool.
Was that helpful?
I mean, was that helpful?
I hope
Have you got any? If you got any questions about changing nations or rolling up new characters, anything you're worried about, anything you're concerned about, certainly leave a note below. But
scream into our comment void.
Yeah, but yeah, I think that was maybe interesting for some people on some level. I guess we're going because it's dinner time now. Oh, yeah. Thanks so much for listening and watching, everyone. We'll see you again in another one.
See you soon.
Bye.
Bye. Hello there again, Matt. How are you?
I'm good. Can we do a proper hello without eating?
No.
No.
No. None of that. I just really like brie.
I know you do.